Okay. Okay, yeah. Good afternoon. Wow. How's been your day? I'm sure your day has been awesome. I want to welcome you one more time to this program, Street Sense, and today also promises to be awesome. We've got a lot of feedback from last week's program, all of, and I'm so sure that today also is going to be much more better than what we had last week. So I would like to thank you one more time. Thank you for taking our time to join us. Please, what is very, very important right now is for you to help us share this link, invite someone, tell them they shouldn't miss this. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be mind blowing. For one thing, I know God has for someone out there, and you shouldn't just miss it. You shouldn't miss it. God gave me a very strong word that has been with me for years now, and I think it's very important for us to become more conscious about this in this season that we are in. All right. Father, thank you for this opportunity. We ask that you will send your word with accuracy and let your word come with power, also taking us where we should be in the name of Jesus. Okay, Street Sense. What I'm about to share with us today, God taught me this lesson in 2012. I was just done with NYC, and there is a place you get to that you naturally just want to become complacent with things. But then God had to bring me into this lesson that has stayed with me ever since. Because if we are not careful, we get to a height with God and then we just begin to plummet down. Okay, so God taught me this particular lesson. How come the giants, all right, suddenly became ants? How come that the Egyptians were able to enslave the Israelites? Then they said to me, it didn't happen overnight. There was something that went wrong with the Israelites, and then the consequential effect of it was that they ended up in slavery. Follow me to the Bible in Exodus chapter 1. Exodus chapter 1, we're just going to read 3 verses, and then we just get this rolling. Exodus chapter 1, from verse 8 down to verse 10. Okay, now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. Okay, this king did not know Joseph, and he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Verse 10 says, come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply. Okay, let me just stop there. Let me read from the Amplified Version for us. The Amplified Version says, now a new king arose over Egypt who did not know Joseph. He said to his people, behold, the Israelites are too many and too mighty for us, and they outnumber us both in people and in strength. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them, lest they multiply more. Okay, that's very important. And the summary of what I'm about to share with us today is that you should live today, but let it count forever. Live today, but ensure that it counts forever. This Pharaoh said that these Israelites were too much, they were too many, and they were mightier than them. So how come that the people that were said to be mightier, the people that were said to be stronger, suddenly ended up as slaves? All right. What Pharaoh said to them was, guys, let us make a plan. Let us devise a plan to keep them from growing even more. In other words, what we are seeing in their lives presently is a result of what had been happening in their past. Alright, whatever it is that they did in the past has brought them to this point where they are mightier, where they are stronger. Okay, they are mightier than us, they are stronger than us, and they are even more powerful. As a matter of fact, a translation says that these people have multiplied greatly. All right, they are extremely powerful, and then they have filled the land. So how come you can just enslave that set of people? He said the only way we can do that is to deal wisely with them. Let us devise a plan, and the plan is to ensure that they stop growing. It simply implies that their growth in the past has brought them to this present state where they are now a threat to the Egyptians. They have become a threat to Pharaoh, and then the same thing applies to you and I. The devil is not bothered about our past. The devil is not really targeting our present. His main target is the future, because our future, all right, is a threat to him. The devil is threatened by our future in God, and that is why all his arsenals that is throwing at you and I is just to distract us from the future that God has for us. And then there will be a plan that, even though you may not be aware of, the plan is to ensure that one way or the other you get to a peak in life, and then you just decide that that's the height. You stop growing, you stop adding to yourself, and before you know it, slavery begins. Okay, so Pharaoh said we have to come up with a plan, and the plan is simple: stop them from growing even more. In other words, whatever we are seeing in their life right now is a result of the past. What we will see in the future will be a result of what is happening right now. But the moment we decide that we are not going to stop growing, what happens is that our past, all right, will never be able to measure up with the future. And then by the growth of today, both the past and the present combined will never be able to match up with the future. So if people do not understand that we have to continue, then slavery is imminent. One way or the other, we will just find out that, well, over time, we have gotten to an height, we've enjoyed glamour, we've enjoyed fame, but suddenly this thing just comes to a stop. It is a plan from the pit of hell. Watch this. Everything that happened in your past is no longer a threat to the devil. No matter how good your past is, the devil is not interested in it. The devil understands this, is a very good strategist. All right, so is not bothered about what God has been able to do with your past. He's not bothered about how great you were. His concern is what will become of you tomorrow. So when Pharaoh said, let us ensure that these people stop growing, it's because he understood that your potentials in God and your portions in God can only be delivered to you, all right, if you continue to grow. You see, every believer must understand that we have promises in God. In 2 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 20, the Bible says that the promises of God, they are yea and in Christ. Amen. All right. So you have promises in God, and the devil cannot do anything about them. The best he can do about those promises is to keep you ignorant of them or to make you disbelieve them. But to destroy them, he can't. He does not have that power. All right. In 2 Peter chapter 1 verse 4, Peter wrote and said that we have great and exceeding great and precious promises. All right, so there are promises from God that the devil can do nothing about. Take a measure of growth for us to be able to lay hold on them as our reality. 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 13 says that by these promises we look for. In other words, the promises of God should also structure, all right, our expectations. What we are expecting from God should be structured by our promises, the promise that we have come to know that is in God. But if we are not growing, we will not be able to lay hold on these promises. You also, as a believer out there, you have a portion in God. Every believer definitely has a portion in God. In Galatians chapter 4 and verse 1, Paul writing to the Galatian church, Paul told them that an heir, as long as he is a child, all right, it differs nothing from a slave, though he be the head of all. Okay, in other words, there is an inheritance for you because you are a child of God. In Romans chapter 8 verse 17, the Bible says that if you are a child, then you are an heir. So you have a portion in God that God has decided that this is your own lot, all right, because you are a member of His kingdom. But it's going to take growth for you to be able to lay hold on your portion in God. And as a matter of fact, also, you don't just have promises, you don't just have portions, you also have potentials in God. In Ephesians chapter 4, verse 7, Ephesians chapter 4, verse 13, the Bible says there that until we all come to the unity of the faith, all right, and of the knowledge of the Son of God, all right, and to a perfect man. And then we just continue to grow into the fullness of the stature of Christ. In other words, our potential in God is that we become just like Christ. So you have potentials in God, you have portions in God, and then you also have promises in God. So when Pharaoh decided to have that plan, his intention was to stop them from growing, to be able to lay hold on their promises in God, to be able to lay hold on their portions in God, and to be able to attain to their full potentials in God. In other words, no matter how good you think your past is, if you are not growing, your potentials will die with you. Hello. Now, this is how it works. Life is always in constant motion. Life is always in transit. Have you heard some people say, well, thank God, oh, I didn't go forward, I didn't go backward, I'm just where I am. Well, that's a lie. You might not have gone forward, but definitely you are not where you used to be. Why? Life is always moving. Life is always moving. So, if you are not moving, then life has left you behind. If you are not in motion, then life has left you behind. Don't think that you are still where you used to be. The moment you stop growing, then you start dying. Anything that goes up and stops going up will definitely start coming back down. You see, life does not entertain vacuum. So it's either you are moving upward or then you are enjoying the spiral downward movement. Okay, so the devil plans every time on how to stop God's children and generally people from just growing. Get this. Whatever it is that you were doing that brought you to where you are right now will be the least of what will sustain you and the least of what can take you to your desired future. Whatever you were doing that brought you to where you are right now will be the least of what can sustain you where you are right now and what can push you forward to where you are really going in life. When a man stops growing or a son stops growing in the palace, even slaves can take over his father's throne. So the problem of the Israelites was that they grew to a point where they felt it was all right. Their growth in the past was so interesting to them that they didn't know that either though it has brought them, but it cannot take them further. So that they became slaves was not an overnight thing. It was a gradual process that they were not conscious of. You see, the Bible just read and said that there came a Pharaoh that didn't know Joseph. That is not after after this present Pharaoh, the next one came and then didn't know Joseph. No. It was a gradual thing. It took years that the influence of Joseph had waned down. The impact that Joseph made by the wisdom of God had gone down. But these guys did not pay attention. They had the glory of Joseph and they were still relishing in it. Okay? They were singing the praises of Joseph and they were enjoying it. But not knowing that, listen, what took place in the past has gone with the past. Now there are present issues. There are pressing needs that the Israelites were oblivious of. All right, they were not doing anything about, and before they knew it, they said, well, we have outgrown these people in number. We have outgrown them in strength. It is all right for us to stop growing. But what they didn't know is that they were not the only one moving. They were not the only one living. So when they stopped growing, others continued to grow. And the moment they were growing, it was just a matter of time, they became slaves. So this is the question. Which height did you get to that you decided that it's all right? One of the lies we must always be conscious of and avoid is the fact that we have arrived. Listen, in God there is no arrival. There is no arrival whatsoever in God. Whatever God has used you to do in the past is only the minimum that He can do with your life. The moment you get to a point and you feel like, well, I've gotten to the best that God has for me, then the thing is this, you begin to die. Because when growth stops, death sets in. Or when growth stops, the decay process is initiated. Agriculturally, they say that the moment a fruit becomes ripe, at the same moment it starts to rot. So if you ever try to get ripe with God, then just expect that rottenness has set in also. The way God structures our life is that we are always increasing in Him, that we are enjoying an ever increasing life in Him. In other words, Proverbs chapter 4 verse 18 says, the path of the just is like a shining light that shines brighter and brighter until the perfect day. Psalm 84 and verse 7, it says, they move from strength to strength, every one of them that abide before God in Zion. So it is from strength to strength. Your yesterday must never be better than your today. So we have to keep going, growing. We have to keep getting better. You see, economics has a law that they call the law of inflation. It's like you are using a particular input every time, all right, and then you are getting the same output. So if you continue using the same input over and over again, it gets to a point where your production reduces. If you've done economics before, the growth is like this. You continue to grow straight, but then because you are not adding to the input, it gets to a point it peaks, and then before you know it, it starts to come down. At that point where it curves is where they call the point of inflection. So if we are not careful, if we are not deliberate about our lives, what will happen is that we get to a particular point and then we relax, we feel all right, but before you know it, you begin to calm down. Now check this out. To grow old is a natural thing. Every one of us will grow old. It's a matter of course. But to grow up is a matter of choice. When people stop growing, they start to age. So you can be increasing in age, but then you are not increasing in sage, in wisdom. Because you are growing only in age, like the Israelites who only grew numerically, but then they were not growing in the power of God. Every time something tells you that it is all right just the way you are, understand that something is about to put you in slavery. If you stop growing spiritually, it's only a matter of time you will become a slave to spiritual problems. If you stop growing financially, it's only a matter of time you will become a slave to financial problems. If you stop growing emotionally and logically, you will become a slave in relationships. That's just the way it works. Growth is something that must never be stopped. We grew up to where we are, then for us to get to where God is taking us, we have to keep growing. So the Israelites were stronger than them. They were mightier than them, but then they just relaxed. And that is the problem we see with this generation especially. That we are careful about what God has done with us, but then we are not interested of what God can still do with us. Listen to this. Anything dead can give life to worms. So the moment you see a giant being eaten by worms, then understand that that giant died. That is why that giant has produced worms, and the first thing worms do is that they feed, all right, on their host. So I've come with a question for you today. Have you gotten to a height in your life where you feel it's all right? Have you ever done anything good and then people tell you, wow, that's your sky? God taught me a simple lesson years ago. He said, when you read the word sky, don't spell it S-K-Y. Spell it from the back, Y-K-S. Every sky must be seen as your key start. Your sky is not your peak. It's just your key start. In other words, it's your launching pad. It's that thing that you have done that should launch you into greater greatness. It's that thing that you have done that should push you forward in the right direction. But then the moment you think you have arrived, the moment you think you have attained to all that God has for you, it's a matter of time. Pharaohs can come and then enslave you. Alright? So as God's children, every day ensure that you are adding to yourself in terms of God's power, in terms of God's presence, and in terms of God's wisdom. God's power in terms of his ability, the presence of God in terms of his characteristics, and the wisdom of God. Let me call it WJWD, what Jesus would do. Alright, so you are growing in the wisdom of God per day, you are growing in the presence of God per day, you are growing in the power of God per day. So the Israelites had a problem that because of the issue they had, alright, Joseph came from slavery, alright, and then became the prime minister. They stopped adding value to themselves. Alright, they stopped growing in the power of God. They stopped growing in the presence of God. They also stopped growing in the wisdom of God. They didn't know that it took the wisdom of God in the life of Joseph to be able to provide, alright, solution to the problem that the Pharaoh then had. Because in the times of Pharaoh, of Joseph, the problem that they were confronted with in Egypt was agricultural. So Joseph came by the wisdom of God, provide agricultural solution to it, and then the first silo was erased, and then bam, this guy is so good. Number one, he was able to provide solution to the dreams of the king. Number two, was able to provide agricultural solution. Now, in their own times, you should find out what was really the problem they had on ground. Now, the only way to know was to find out what did Pharaoh use them to do the moment he enslaved them. Construction. The Bible says that he used them to build cities for himself. So, if there was any one of them who had the wisdom of God, all right, to provide architectural solution, engineering solution, then they will never have become slaves. Rather, they will have been employed. It's just a matter of time. That if you are not adding value to yourself every day, people will get to a point where they can conveniently do without you. If you are not adding value to yourself per day, people will be able to conveniently do without you. Don't fight people and say, we used to be close. We were very close one time like that, but something just happened and then you just cannot remember us. Listen, it's of two things. It's either you stop adding value to yourself, and those people felt they had no need of you again, and then they moved on, or probably they became blind and they couldn't see the greatness in you anymore, so they left. Either ways, ensure that you don't remain the same. In Luke chapter 7 verse 2, Jesus, there's a story about the centurion whose servant was sick. Okay, the servant was very sick, and then the Bible says that this guy went to Jesus. He went to Jesus looking for healing for his servant. That's very funny. It will have felt like, well, this guy is just a slave. What do I need him for? And then just allow him to die like that. But because this guy is a profitable servant, the master had to go an extra mile to ensure, that he found the cure to his sickness. Get that right. In 1 Samuel chapter 30, there is a story about this guy. When David came back and found that Ziklag had been attacked, and then they've taken his wives and his children off like that. The Bible says that he went after them, and then he found a guy, in the field, and then he asked the guy, "What's up? Why are you here?" And then this guy said that, my master left me 3 days ago because I fell ill. Well, it's the two of them are at fault, both the master and the guy. The master left him because he fell ill, which simply means that the master was in a way stupid because he no longer saw value in the life of this guy. Okay, and then he didn't know that though someone can be sick today, but then tomorrow they can actually be the one to bring about your own victory. So he lost that guy to David because he just gave up on him. But then the guy too had a fault because the master was able to easily give up on him because he was not that profitable. If it was the type that was so result oriented, it would not have been easy for the master to easily discard him like that. So if people live your life, find out what exactly went wrong. Okay, if it is that they no longer see the greatness in you, pity them. But if it is that you stopped growing and well, they no longer find it for you, then you should start growing now, so that you can command their respect and not just be complaining that someone left you. Find out whether you stopped growing or they are the one at fault, which just cannot see the greatness in you. So if there is no longer a growth process in you, then there will be a problem of what can come out of your life. And whatever you don't outgrow will develop power enough to enslave you. And that is so real even in this nation right now. So real. Have you ever imagined how Nigeria got to where it is right now? See, watch this. Growth is only possible where there is freedom. Growth is only possible when freedom is in place. We have physical freedom, and then we have the freedom of the mind. Physical freedom, which is independence. That's just it. So Nigeria as a federal state is independent. But Nigeria, or many Nigerians especially, are still not free. Please follow me. As a state, Nigeria is independent. We are independent of the Queen's rule, but we are not yet independent or free of their own system. So one way or the other, we are still following their system. Okay? That's a problem. That we have physical freedom, but then we are not free in our minds. Many Nigerians are not yet free in their minds. And if you are not free in your mind, there is no way you can maximize the physical freedom. If you are not free in your mind, you can become better than what is going on around you. So Nigerians, in a way, have still been caged. Basically, by the experiences around us, by the problems around. And then you see, the devil uses two major strategies: pleasure and pressure. It brings pleasure around us, it brings pressure around us, just to make us lose sight of the future. And then the moment your mind is not free, your mind is not free to think, your mind is not free to allow your dreams to just bloom. The thing is this: you will start believing that a lot of things are not possible. And the moment you believe that some things are not possible, then slavery becomes the order of the day. So a lot of Nigerians, in their minds, they are still not free. So we can say that we are an independent state, but then we are not maximizing the freedom that we have, all right? And then we can see where we are right now. You see, Nigeria at some point was called the giant of Africa. I mean, that was long before I was born, all right? Long before many of us were born. But then we were all singing that praise: Nigeria, giant of Africa, giant of Africa, giant of Africa. And then we suddenly woke up in 2019/2020, and then a world organization will call us the headquarters of poverty in the world. You should ask yourself a question: how come the giant of Africa suddenly became the headquarters of poverty? It is because Nigeria grew to a point where it stopped growing, but then we forgot that other African nations, all right, are growing. And because we stopped growing or something like that, we have to also stop growing. So now you can't even call Nigeria the giant of Africa, because we are not it again. We stopped growing, and then it has affected where we are right now. So if you are not growing in your mind, there will be consistent slavery all around. Whatever you don't outgrow, whatever you don't grow above, will enslave you. And then there are systems that are already in place that tries to cage people, even in our generation. Now, when I'm talking about Pharaoh coming up with this strategy that either though they have grown, but let them not grow anymore. Understand, I'm not talking about the pharaohs in Egypt. There are pharaohs all around us. Amen. Right there where you are, there are pharaohs there. You see, if you are working for a boss and the boss has developed a kind of system for you where you have come to believe that you don't have time, let us read, I don't have time. Let us develop a business club where we can share things, I don't have time. Okay, start your own business, I don't have time. All you are doing is that you are giving your boss your time. Your boss did not tell you, but your boss only put a system in place where he has made you to believe that you don't have time. And whoever controls your time controls your life. So the moment he owns you, he can put a seal upon your growth. Only a matter of time you will become a slave. And you will only know that you are suffering from that problem when you begin to blame him and say that he owns you, that he holds you. Now, he has acted like the one that owns you. Now, you now feel he owes you. But no, you were the one at fault. Because, listen, Jesus made an important statement one time. Jesus said, if you are not faithful in another man's thing, who will give you your own? In other words, every man has his own. Every man has his own. I'm not preaching disloyalty. As a matter of fact, Jesus said that the only way you can get that which is your own is through loyalty. That you are loyal to the thing that is someone else's, and then by that loyalty, your own, all right, rises up. But then if you are blinded by the thing of another man's, that you are not developing your own, you will get to a point where you will be like the Israelites. In other words, you can be under a man, but ensure that your vision is being fulfilled under that man. If your vision is not being fulfilled under that man, you are serving a Pharaoh. Because the capacity of a leader is such that the people under him can find full expression, all right, and their vision also can be fulfilled under that man. So if there is a breakup, Jacob had to break from Laban because Laban's business could not provide a platform for him to fulfill his own destiny. So if you are under a Pharaoh that you don't know, who has already made you feel that you don't have anything else to do other than to serve this man, then you are wrong. You know, I'm not trying to attack personalities here. UBA sacked some people some time ago. And then some of them had worked for UBA for 17 years. And then they came up, UBA chairman came up and said that they were toxic. I mean, to me, that's so sad. That's so bad. That people have served you for 17 years and then you call them toxic. But my question to the people that were sacked is this. If you have served another man for 17 years, what did you do with your own? Because if you are not developing your own, the day the people feel they have no need of you, you will be stranded in life. That you have allowed them to stunt your growth. And so you are not giving expression to that which is on the inside of you. And these pharaohs are everywhere. We have religious pharaohs also. Religious pharaohs that just want you to believe everything they say, hook, line, and sinker. That you don't bother cross-checking whether they are right. You don't bother cross-checking whether the things they say is even true. So a man can come out and say, Babu Koro is a scam, and then the followers just go ahead and then begin to destroy properties because one cleric says that, man, this thing is just not real. The same thing we have some people also in religious circles, all right, your pastor just says things, you don't be like the Berean Christians who will go ahead and find out whether the things that this man has said is actually what the Bible is saying. Because listen, the best way to be safe in this generation is to ask questions and then you question those answers. You don't just get things hook, line, and sinker. You ask questions and then you question those answers. That is how we get to be safe in this generation. So we have religious pharaohs. We have cultural pharaohs also. People that will come out with systems to keep a set of people from growing. Amachiri is just a function of pharaohs also. That system, let's keep them uneducated in the Western culture, okay? We will feed them when they need food, and then when we need them, we'll be able to use them. It's just a pharaoh system. So a set of people are not educated, they are just roaming about, and then they are only taught what their boss wants them to know. That's a pharaoh system at work, even in this country. So that the only thing you need to say to them is just rank and everything is just that God has blessed them for us. So we don't need to attain to that height. We don't need to try to go. We don't need to strive to become better. All we are just trusting is that God has lifted them up because of us. That's a system that has stunted the growth of people. We also have political pharaohs, such that, listen, let me talk to my generation basically here. The system of our politics, Nigerian politics, is very different from the ones of others. That pharaohs in the political arena are ensuring by all means that they stay in power. They are ensuring by all means that their own kids get to be the ones in power after us. And one thing they do is that they've sold the ideology of pleasure to the Nigerian youth. That the average Nigerian youth only thinks about pleasure, entertainment. That even when they come to church, they are still after entertainment. It's an ideology that they tell you it is alright for you to enjoy your life and enjoy your life, but you do nothing about investing in your life. So you can go from club to clubbing and from club to clubbing, and you just don't know that it's a system that they put in place to distract you from the future. So while all these are preparing on how to continue in power and how to bring their own kids to take over from them, all right, a lot of Nigerian youth are distracted with pleasure. So you will wake up one day to realize that we serve their father and now we are serving their children, because they have blinded us to the reality. Another thing they do is to put pressure all around. So you have graduated for 5 years. In fact, before you get admission, you were under pressure. While in school, you were under pressure. Now you have graduated for 5 years looking for a job, it is still pressure. All right, you try to start agriculture, no agricultural loan is available. You start to you try to start your SME, there is no loan, nobody's trying to give you head start. Everything is just hard. The guys in your area have stopped calling you bros, now they are calling you Egbon. You must understand that they've already elevated you. Do you get what I'm talking about? So, I mean, the guys in your church are no longer calling you brother, they're now calling you daddy. They are passing across a message to you. So societal pressure is coming on you, marital pressure is coming on you, family age is catching up with you, family is asking you, when are you getting married? When are you getting married? So all these things putting pressure on you that you just accept fate. You stop trying to grow better because you have accepted that, man, I think this is all there is. The pleasures around and the pressures around can actually make a man stop growing. And there are 3 dividing lines for this generation. Either the pleasure or the pressure or purpose. Only few people in our generation are being purpose driven. And the truth is this, even while you are trying to fulfill purpose, you will still face the problem of pleasure and then the temptations that come with a lot of pressures. But you must decide which dividing line you will belong to. Again, I'm talking about it. So you just want to be given to pleasure because you are a youth and that the ideology is sold to you. You want to be given to you are already succumbing to the pressures around. And then 6 months before the election, you begin to wake up. And then you say to yourself, shouldn't Nigerian youth also contest? Shouldn't Nigerian youth also say? These older people, all right, they have been planning for years. You can't just come and take over from them under 6 months. Take away God and intelligence from giants, you are left with ants. GI. Take it away and you are left with ants. God and intelligence, spiritual intelligence, emotional intelligence. All a giant will become when he loses the God factor and when he starts growing is that he will become an ant. It is just automatic. So I've come to you today to ask you whether you have stopped growing. Have you allowed the pressures around you? Have you allowed the pleasures around you? Now listen, there is pleasure in sin. You understand that? In Hebrews 11, the Bible says that Moses chose rather to, all right, with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a while. So there is pleasure in sin. That is why people fall for it. Do you get what I'm talking about? It? There is pleasure in sin. That is why people fall for it. So please, you have to be conscious and deliberate about your growth. It. So, how do you know whether you have stopped growing? If you don't know that you have stopped growing, you won't know that the devil will leave you. I will just give you like 6 points. Number one, the moment your temptations are still the same, know that your growth has stopped. Let me say it this way. If you are still falling for the same temptations, then you have stopped growing. Because temptations come in height. Do you get it? Temptations come in height. The first temptation of Jesus was turn the stones to bread. Okay? And then he turned the stones to bread, and then, okay, he turned the stones to bread. I mean, he wouldn't turn the stones to bread because he understood better. But that was the ground floor temptation. The next temptation that happened was at the top or at the roof of the temple. See, there was a growth. The next temptation that happened, all right, was at the peak of the mountain. There was a growth also. So, if you are not growing, your temptations will just remain the same. Because the bigger the head, the bigger the headache. So, if the temptations you are facing today is exactly the same temptations you faced years back, then somehow along the line, you stopped growing. That's just the way it works. Number two way for you to know, okay, please, I need to charge this one. Okay, sorry for that. Another way for you to know that you have stopped growing is that if the things that you were doing as an unbeliever now begins to interest you, the things you were doing as an unbeliever suddenly begins to gain your fancy, suddenly begins to gain your attention, then there is something wrong with your growth process. You have stopped growing. Number three way for you to know that you have stopped growing is this. When last did you share the